I'm John Law, this is Chasing Cars, and next to me is the 2020 Toyota C-HR. Now, if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you'll know that we really get along with this little SUV. When it first came onto the marketplace in 2017, it shocked us with its really rather swish styling and a cool little 1.2 litre turbocharged engine. Thankfully, the styling was backed up by substance as well. The driving experience is definitely one of the best in its class. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the styling though, because I know it's not for everyone. It is quite angular and a little bit divisive, but there's one thing for sure is that it catches people's eyes. Now, for 2020, the C-HR has had a couple of updates. There's a little bit of a styling tweak. It's pretty minimal. It pretty much extends to the front bumper where it's a little bit more aggressive looking and a little bit less body color and a little bit more black plastic. The big news for 2020 is that you can get a 1.8 litre petrol electric hybrid, which we've already tested. Check out Tom's full-length video review in the top right-hand corner of this video, or the link in the description. However, this is the regular 1.2 litre turbocharged Koba two-wheel drive variant, so it's top of the range without going to the hybrid or with the all-wheel drive. Frankly, we think the all-wheel drive is extra money for not much extra performance, so this is probably our pick, but we wanted to see if this car is still as good as we remember it. So what we're going to do today is take it out on a pretty tough and demanding drive route that takes in some of New South Wales' most tricky roads, even some really rough dirt as well, and some suburban and urban driving. So join us for that. But first, I want to show you my favourite seat in the house of the C-HR, which is the driver's seat. This isn't like Toyotas of old. The design in here is way nicer. There's lots of piano black. There's lots of swish, simplistic design choices that really make this car feel a little bit more high quality than you come to get used to with Toyota. This AC unit here is a personal favorite. It's very European. It's sort of floating there. The black plastic, although gets covered in fingerprints, it's a very simple and sort of aeronautical switchgear system for the air conditioning, and it works great. What really stands out to me in here is the overall build quality. So everything feels solid, and it feels much more so than Toyotas of old. You can't really wiggle much the center console or anything. It feels quality and well screwed together. As for the materials, the wheel is wrapped in this sort of nice faux leather. There is a little bit of hard touch right down here, mainly on the center console is the place that annoys me most, because that's where my left knee rests, and it does tend to get a little bit sore after long periods in the car. However, there's soft touch here. It's sort of a little bit squidgy. There's this cool fabric here, which is C-HR signature now. You've got your avocado cutouts in the roof, and you've got soft touch up here, which to me seems a little bit silly. It's fake leather with molded stitching. I would prefer that soft touch down here. Now, the big headline for the 2020 C-HR is that it now comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. That's obviously a wired system, which there is only one USB port for, which is down there in the center console. I would prefer to see more USB ports. There's also a 12-volt charging socket and a little tray for your phone down here, which basically an iPhone fits in there, but when you plug it in to use your Apple CarPlay, the iPhone no longer fits in there, which is a bit of an oversight. So that means you end up using this slightly strangely positioned cup holder to fill up with phones and wallets and keys. So there's a little bit of an oversight for me. However, the door bins are good. They're actually flexible, so they sort of stretch out to take your bottle, and it means it really doesn't rattle around very much. So well done to Toyota for thinking of that. You've also got this rather ingenious little design. You've got your little coffee, so your coffee cup doesn't fall in as far as it might do. However, with my Keep Cup it's fine, but with a small coffee cup I doubt that you'll have any clearance. So it sort of works, it sort of doesn't. Storage bin in here, nice and deep, works well as an armrest, nice and soft touch. Driving position is good, although it is slightly artificially high. There's sort of some spaces down there to do what feels like is bring a Corolla driving position up. So other than that though, I can get a nice comfortable position for spending all day in the car. There's plenty of headroom up here. The only other issue with the seats, which are extremely comfortable generally, nice and soft, they're not electrically adjustable, which is a bit of an oversight on a car that costs this much money in my opinion. And the under thigh support is generally pretty lacking for someone at my height. For most people, I'm sure it'll be fine, but at 6'2", there's not much here to support my legs, which can get annoying on longer drives. Now, overall, the front seat's pretty good. However, the rear seat is where things get a little bit stranger. So we'll head there now, and I'll give you my thoughts on the rear seat of the C-HR. Now, this is a place that slightly confuses me, to be honest. Now, the actual bench that I'm sitting on is very soft and very squidgy and extremely comfortable. The back as well is nice to actually sit on. Behind myself, I'm 6'2", so at the upper end of the spectrum. I've actually got pretty decent knee room and plenty of toe room. I can slide my feet right under the front seat and it's nice and comfortable. And yet, there is nothing back here. Now, there's a front driver's seat mounted grab handle, but there's no grab handle in the back seat. There's also no ventilation, which is not too uncommon in this segment. There's no USB or 12-volt outlets either to charge your iPads. All of the plastic back here is really very scratchy. There's a door bin, and there's not even a center armrest. So to me, the back seat's a bit weird in this car because for short journeys where you don't need to carry stuff, it's actually really comfortable. But if you want to rest your arms or carry anything or charge anything up, it's a bit compromised. That tells you everything you need to know, really. This is a car designed with 2 people in mind, not 4. So if you need to carry 4 people in comfort, look elsewhere. But if you don't care about that and you care more about the driving experience, well, we'll get on to why this car might be the choice in a minute. Now, first of all, though, we've got to check out how practical the boot is. So, now, coming around from the back seat to the rear of the C-HR. Just before we get into the practicality, I'm going to mention that I really love the design back here. It's really angular, it's completely so Japanese, and I think it works really well. Sets it apart from other cars. You don't have the square boot lid, it's kind of more of a shooting brake style, sloping rear window. Now, as you'll find out when we take it for a drive, looking cool does have its payoffs. The visibility out the rear left-hand and right-hand corners is pretty compromised, but thanks to that granny touchscreen screen, you can just about see where you need to go. Now, the actual boot size of the C-HR is pretty decent at 377 litres. It's about the same size as a Golf, in fact, and it's very much it's the smallest of its small SUV competitors. It's kind of Mazda CX-30 size, but it's big enough. There's no horrible load lip. It's a nice flat load bay. You can fold the rear seats completely flat and there's no hump in the floor. That means it's really easy to store something like a bicycle. You can get a road bike in with both wheels on, which is a nice thing for me. You've got a space saver spare underneath the boot floor, and you've got a couple of extra little cubbies down here. Not much to write home about though. Now, the only other thing I'll make a point of is, of all the cars with a power tailgate that don't need them, this car could probably do with one because it's pretty heavy and it's a little bit unpleasant to use, and if you're a shorter person, you kind of got to reach for it. So, not sure why Toyota omitted that, but anyway, let's get back to the good stuff and take this thing out for a spin. Okay, now we're back in the best seat in the house, in the Toyota C-HR, the driver's seat, and we're going to take it for a little spin and talk about what it does well. Now, starting off, we're at low speed, just cruising around the suburbs down here, and I have to say it's so good for this. It's what it was designed for, obviously. You've got your little digital speed readout here in the middle. You don't have to look at the slightly questionable analog dials. That's great. The steering stays nice and light in normal mode around town. I got it in normal mode. You can put it into other modes as well. There is Sport and Eco. Eco makes the throttle response just super dull, and then Sport just makes the steering feel like you're trying to turn through some thick mud. So leave it in normal. Visibility out the front is really good. I've got these little front triangles here of glass instead of being all A-pillar, which is a really nice touch. Well done, Toyota, on that. The mirrors are really nice and big. You can see heaps in them. The blind spot monitoring system as well is excellent. Works just as it needs to, and where the biggest issue is obviously rearward visibility in this car. it's quite a little cocoon, it's quite a little cockpit, so it's difficult to see out the back. But although grainy, the rear view camera does a great job of letting you see what you need to see, and it's actually a pretty easy car to maneuver with front and rear parking sensors, the 360-degree top-down view, and yeah, everything you need. So you can have good design and still be able to be safe at the same time. The rear crossing traffic alert helps with that a lot as well. So with proper AEB, Toyota has done what they need to do for this as a city car, which has made it a safe, comfortable, and, you know, fun little place to be. Now we've got Apple CarPlay, we don't have to worry about Toyota's pretty average map system, so that's great as well. I can play my music, plug my phone in, all good. That sort of brings us around to cabin isolation and refinement. This thing is really, really good at city speeds for sure. The TNGA platform architecture has allowed Toyota to build this car as a really rigid body, which means that you do not get any transmission of bumps from outside. The actual cabin isolation is excellent. Now, the road noise from the grippy Potenza REO 508 rubber does flare up as you get over 100 kilometers an hour, and that can be a little bit annoying, but that is the price you pay for grippy tires, and let's be honest, this is not a Mercedes S-Class. Realistically, it's great up there though. There's no wind noise, and Toyota seem to have engineered a little dead spot into the steering wheel so that at 110 k's an hour, you don't have to worry about sort of micromanaging the wheel. It's well done. Now, at high speed as well, we have to say that above 80 k's an hour, this 1.2 litre turbocharged unit doesn't have much poke. Going flat out doesn't seem to make the car actually go that much faster. Instead, you make pretty decent progress going 3/4 and 2/3 throttle, and that gets it done. That being said, it's an absolutely fine combination around town. This CVT and 1.2 litre gets you up to 50-60 k's an hour as quick as anyone else on the road, it seems to. If only the CVT was a manual gearbox though, because this engine would pair so nicely with a lovely little snickety 6-speed Toyota manual gearbox. But I understand that's not for everyone, so that is how it is. What this car does have for keener drivers though is a wonderful chassis. Just because it's taller off the ground and a higher centre of gravity does not a crap car make. No. It's a really confidence-inspiring chassis. It feels planted at regular speeds. It feels super secure on back roads, on dirt, over corrugations and big bumps. You can upset it a little bit with multiple bumps in a row, where you'll find that the springs feel a little stiff for the dampers, or maybe the dampers are just cheap items. I'm not entirely sure, but it does feel like it can get away from you as you start to push it harder. But that is in extreme circumstances. Everywhere else, this thing is planted and unflustered. The other cool thing about it is the harder you drive it, the better it gets. So you can start turning this car into corners quick, trail braking and lifting off mid-corner to trim your line in a corner, and boy is it fun. It provides, you know, quite a large amount of entertainment, more than I would expect this car to. It feels more like a 90s French hatchback, like a Peugeot 306. Now, the other thing to mention is the brakes. They feel very natural, along with the natural steering. It feels like a car that sort of, you don't have to learn. There's no learning curve. You can get your grandma in this, you can get anyone in this, a keen driver, whatever. They're probably going to enjoy their experience. So bravo for that, Toyota. You've made a car that does everything it needs to do as a city runabout, visibility, all that. But it also provides some enjoyment for us enthusiastic drivers on back roads. Now that brings us to the end of our time with the C-HR. The facelifted model brings a little bit of an update in styling, but most importantly, it now packs Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which brings it up into line with all of its competitors, because let's be frank, the Toyota infotainment system itself isn't actually very good. So thank you for that, Toyota. Now, the great things about the C-HR remain. It looks fantastic here in this Feverish Red colorway, which is a $500 option, but ticket looks wicked. The black roof though, probably forget about that. That's another $500 option. Likewise, two-wheel drive's where it's at. I wouldn't bother stepping up to the all-wheel drive models. However, the hybrid does pose a very good option. The fuel consumption we got from this car was a little bit underwhelming, to be honest, but that may be because it's very new and not completely run in. What remains, thankfully, is the fantastic driving dynamics, the cabin isolation, and the fun factor of this little car. But if you enjoy driving and like looking at cool looking cars, then Toyota has absolutely gone above and beyond making just another car and created with the C-HR facelift something that is a lot of fun to drive. If you enjoyed this video, and you haven't done so yet, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you never miss one of our full-length Australian video car reviews. I've been John Law. As always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.